4-2 to advance to the National League Division Series. Pete Alonso ripped a homer in the ninth. It was a 3-run shot off closer Devin Williams to give New York the win. They move on to a best-of-5 division series starting Saturday in Philadelphia against the NL East champion Phillies. The NL Central champion Brewers, who made their 6th playoff appearance in 7 years, still haven't won a playoff series since reaching Game 7 of the 2018 NLCS. Zach Wheeler starts for the Phillies tomorrow. The Mets haven't announced a starter. Other games, the Tigers visit the Guardians. Detroit hasn't announced a starter. Cleveland will go with Tanner Bibby. Garrett Cole starts for the Yankees at home against the Royals and Michael Wacha, while the Padres send Dylan Cease to the mound against Yoshi Yamamoto and the Dodgers. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
In business, service is everything. Cintas delivers what you need to better serve your customers. Whether it's freshly laundered work apparel for almost any job imaginable, tested and inspected fire protection systems, first aid and safety supplies, on-site AED training, or mops and restroom products stocked and ready when you need them. Better work days happen together. So visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Fabric Talk. Hey, it's me, your couch. Today's my favorite day of the week. Febreze Fabric Spray Day. The occasional deep cleans are nice, but in between, you know I'm needing a refresh. Ooh, here she comes with the Febreze Fabric Spray. Oh yeah, spritz them armrests. Don't be shy. Nothing like a good spray down to get me smelling so fresh and clean. Don't forget my back. Nice. Febreze Fabric Spray. It's just that easy. Now we can both breathe happy. Febreze. La 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 la.
No way football is playing in the fall and winter.
Because the hits don't hurt as much when you're numb. Get the lowdown on all the sports action coming up right here.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
It's a Football Friday live right here on Football Full Circle, all a part of the SportsGrid Radio Network, Sirius XM, Channel 159. He is Joe Lisi. That's the mastermind of the pigskin. I am Ben Stevens. We get you set for everything you need to know for a new football weekend now officially underway. Week 5 kicking off last night in a thrilling game that we hope is a preview for everything to come on Sunday. And a college football weekend has begun. A banger of a Friday night slate that features 2 ranked teams in action with a little bit of a subtle Saturday slate, but still some great games that we will look at as well. A ton to get to here, Lisi Guy, over this next hour up until 1 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, I mean, that game last night was a banger, right? Looked like a Big 10, Big 12 shootout back in the day, right? With Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield, 500 total yards of offense, and the stage is set. I mean, it's maybe not the best in regards to college football, but it's still a very good slate of action. Tennessee, Arkansas. We have a couple of other games of Washington and Michigan kicking off a little bit later that will help out, conference play in regards to titles and playoff odds. So really looking forward to this weekend, Ben.
A lot of ranked teams on the road, Lisi Guy, against an unranked foe on the other side. Could that be a recipe for upsets on what appears to be a quiet, lackluster Saturday in college football? But we start, of course, with the start of Week 5 and Thursday Night Football in Atlanta. What a game it was. The Falcons victorious in overtime, 36-30. But that's not the entire story, as Atlanta covers as a 2.5-point home favorite. A total of 43.5 skies over. Last night was our 4th short week Thursday night football game so far in 2024. It was the first one that hit the over. And Joe, it didn't need overtime to push over that pregame total of 43.5. We were over on the second offensive possession of the second half, 24-17. The Buccaneers ahead at the break. And Joe, really in the fourth quarter is where things got crazy. Early in the fourth quarter, Chase McLaughlin hits another 50-plus yard field goal, puts the Bucs up 30-27. The Falcons try to respond. They drive the field. They set up a field goal for Younghoe Koo. It's blocked. All right, Tampa in control. The Buccaneers take possession. They're driving down the field. They're burning clock. They're icing this game away. Then the rookie running back, Bucky Irving, fumbles. Atlanta recovers deep in their own territory. Kirk Cousins, though, just a couple of plays later, the first after the 2-minute warning, throws an interception. Oh no, Kirk Cousins faltering in prime time once again. But because it was intercepted by Levante David and not just batted down, the Buccaneers actually had a little bit worse field position than they would have if the pass was just incomplete. And from there, the Bucs lose 14 yards in 3 plays. So they can't even take advantage in Atlanta territory. They punt the football away because the Falcons have no timeouts and just over 60 seconds remaining. Do not doubt Kirk Cousins. He leads Atlanta down the field, spikes it, clocks it with 1 second left, and Younghoe Koo delivers for more than 50 yards out to tie the game at 30 all, send it to overtime. The Falcons get the ball first, opening offensive possession, touchdown. As they get it done in that game, Kadero Hodge, a 45-yard strike, a lot of yards after the catch off a pass from Kirk Cousins. The Atlanta Falcons victorious, Joe, in OT, 36-30. My long-winded recap is done. Your reaction?
Well, it was amazing. And again, so many ebbs and flows in the game, and you can't fault Tampa Bay in regards to that offensive, possession at the end because they did have a penalty that set them up, I believe, with a 2nd and 20. So they tried this screen pass to Rashad White. He gets tackled. It was like a 2nd and 23. And then, from there, it's just like lights out. So they did have the right, mindset heading into that last drive, but they just couldn't close it out. And quite honestly, once Atlanta did get the football back in overtime, it was going to be very difficult to really slow down that offense. I mean, they didn't slow them down all night. So, they were going. How many times did Kirk Cousins go for 4th down? Twice, and they converted. And how about that? If Darnell Mooney catches the football in the 4th quarter, they might not even have been there. It might have been Atlanta up by 4 points at that point.
Yeah.
So just a great game on both ends. I still believe Tampa Bay is the best team, even though they didn't show it last night in the division.
Yeah.
But again, Kirk Cousins playing MVP caliber at least for one game.
We'll talk about the division, Joe, because you're right. Even a short week Thursday night football game, a crucial matchup between these divisional mates, especially for Atlanta, who won last week in the closing seconds, courtesy of a 58-yarder from Younghoe Koo to knock off the New Orleans Saints. They grabbed victory last night against the Buccaneers, of course, in thrilling late-game fashion against the Buccaneers. And there is the good and the bad and the full experience of Kirk Cousins in prime time on display last night. But ultimately, Joe, 42 of 58 for 509 yards, an Atlanta franchise record, 4 touchdowns, and what appeared to be a costly interception late in the 4th quarter. Kirk Cousins throwing for more than 2 touchdowns for the first time in his time in Atlanta. And Joe, he led a game-tying drive and his 2nd game-winning drive already in his first 5 games with the Falcons. This is why you make the big acquisition in the offseason. Seemed to be worth every penny last night.
Yeah, and we saw Kyle Pitts emerge last week, 3 targets, no receptions. He breaks out in a big way with 73-plus yards. Drake London over 100. Bijan utilized a little bit towards the end of the 4th quarter. In my opinion, not enough. And just think about this. 509 yards. Doesn't it seem like that could be done almost every Sunday with some of the quarterback play? I mean, Mahomes, Stafford. I mean, to see these games play out, it's aggressive play calling on 1st and 2nd down. They didn't run the football. Run it on 1st, run it on 2nd, 3rd and 8. Throw the football. That's what happens when you're unpredictable and you break tendencies. You get games like that. So I don't buy into these lower scoring games saying it's a lack of, offensive line. That's BS. It's a matter of being aggressive play calling. And we saw it last night, and hopefully it'll continue throughout the rest of the regular season.
Darnell Mooney even threw it a time during the game. 59 attempts for Atlanta through the air, only 18 carries on the ground, 12 for Bijan Robinson, 6 for Tyler Algier. But we got a glimpse, Joe, of what the Falcons' offensive output could be. They're not always going to score 36 in OT, and Kirk Cousins is not always going to throw for 400 or 500 yards. But you did see Drake London be the leading receiver for a second consecutive week. Darnell Mooney, the other offseason acquisition, 105 yards and 2 touchdowns, 8 targets, 7 grabs, and 88 yards for Kyle Pitts. On the other side, Mike Evans consistent as always. 2 receiving touchdowns. Baker Mayfield, Joe, efficient, 19 of 24, but only for $180 and 3 touchdowns. Whether it was Rashad White or Bucky Irving, Tampa had success on the ground, $160, averaging more than 6 yards per carry. Ultimately, though, a very costly fumble from Bucky Irving, Joe. They could have controlled the game there, continued to run the clock out, and picked up a huge divisional road win in Atlanta. I think the Buccaneers will look back on last night feeling as though they literally coughed up the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, you got to seal the deal, and turnovers are part of the game, especially when you're on the road. Running the football effectively when you have the lead and closing it out, a bad, costly mistake. I mean, we'll see if he learns from that, but hopefully, they gave the game to Atlanta in the end.
The Falcons priced now to win the NFC South as short as it's been since week number 1, plus 115 on the Dirty Birds. We preview the Sunday slate in its entirety next.
Don't look like an idiot at work.
Know your stuff.
Football and everything else.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The number of Americans applying for unemployment benefits rose modestly last week, but remains at healthy levels. With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. The Labor Department reported Thursday that applications for jobless claims rose by 6,000 to 225,000 for the week of September 28th. It was slightly more than the 221,000 analysts were expecting. The 4-week average of claims, which evens out some of weekly volatility, fell by 750 to 224,250. Retailers are ramping up hiring for the holiday season, but fewer seasonal employees are expected to be taken on this year to help customers in stores and assemble online orders in warehouses. Amazon announced Thursday it will hire 250,000 full, part-time, and seasonal workers for the crucial shopping period, rounding out a series of announcements made in recent weeks by the country's top retailers. Target said last month it planned to bring in roughly 100,000 seasonal employees. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
I can't wait for golf this weekend, huh, buddy? Time flies. Love you, man. Oh, don't forget your knee brace again. We aren't in college anymore.
Moments together matter, so help protect yourself from RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV, and there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Fall is almost here.
It's time to stow the lawnmower and get ready for all that glorious action coming your way. Stay tuned to SportsGrid for all the strategies, angles, and info you need to get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Maybe this is your first Football Friday joining us on FFC, but our charge each and every Friday is to preview the full Sunday slate around the NFL. It is our first bye week around the National Football League. The Titans, the Chargers, the Eagles, and the Lions all have the earliest bye you could in 2024, so only 12 games on Sunday. We only had 13 the last 2 Sundays because of a doubleheader on Monday Night Football, so still a pretty robust Sunday slate ahead. And it starts early, Lacey Guy, because for the first time this year, we head across the pond to foggy old London town. It's the Vikings and the Jets. Minnesota, one of 2 remaining undefeated teams entering Week 5 at 4-0 alongside KC. The Vikings, though, the only 4-0 team against the number. A perfect 4-0. Their last 3 wins outright as an underdog. But now, Joe, the Vikes, a favorite for just the second time this year. First time since the opening Sunday against the other New York team, the Giants. Minnesota laying 2.5 against the Jets in London. What do you like?
I like Minnesota. And again, in order for the Jets to be successful, I believe they're going to have to run the football. Breece Hall, ineffective last week, 10 carries for only 4 yards. But that goes right into the strength of Minnesota's front seven. They're the second best run defense in all of the NFL, holding opposing offenses to 75 rushing yards per game. Again, if the Jets can't run it, it's going to be long. Now, these games in Europe and London, it's anybody's guess. How do teams handle the itinerary, the logistical aspect? But I still got to roll with the more consistent team, Minnesota. And again, Ben, I have no confidence in Robert Saleh as a head coach. After that performance last week, the finger pointing, give me Minnesota. You're getting a gift, in my opinion.
The drama because of football, the squabbling, the he said, she said, based on the cadence. The Jets now an underdog for the second time this year. Also the first time since the opening week in San Francisco. One of my questions, Joe, was how many times with a healthy Aaron Rodgers and a team expected to see the postseason going to be booked as a dog? 43 times in total since 2021. That was when Robert Saleh took over as the head coach of Gang Green. They're just 17-26 against the spread. A couple of crucial AFC matchups on Sunday afternoon between 2 clubs we expect even now to contend for a conference crown. Let's start in Cincinnati. AFC North rivalry between the Bengals and the Ravens. Cincy, 2.5-point home underdog. 48.5 is the total. The Flock, the road favorites, they've won 2 consecutive games as a short favorite, less than a field goal. What happens, Joe? Does Baltimore improve to 3-2? Do the Bengals continue to win after the 0-3 start?
I'm going to take a shot with the Bengals. I mean, this is, again, to have the front runner within the conference or the team after knocking off Buffalo the way they did in Dallas. Yeah. Everybody's talking about Lamar Jackson. This is the team we expected. And we know how lackluster the Bengals have started. But again, they get that small victory against Carolina. This is an opportunity to do a complete 360. I think the Bengals strike the upset. This is it. If they lose this, then it's over. But I'm willing to take a shot in terms of this matchup. Give me the Bengals, and I'll take a shot on the over 48.5.
I think it's well said, Joe, because the last 2 years, the Bengals, when they started 0-2, did rally. They won 4 of their next 5 games. They have to have that rally right here, right now, after the winless 0-3 start. Now, Cincy getting healthier defensively, that could help a team that has allowed at least 24 points in each of its last 3 weeks. In fact, Joe, when you look at this total, 48.5, probably not what you think of for an AFC North grinded out football game between these 2 divisional mates. But Cincy over in 3 straight, and in those last 3 games, at least 51 combined points between the 2 teams. Another huge AFC matchup in Houston on Sunday. The Texans hosting the Bills. We are seeing some line movement, Joe. Houston was the early underdog, getting 1.5 at home. As of the time of this episode, that is now flipped. Houston, the slight 1.5 home favorite, -110 on the money line. Buffalo, -106. With C.J. Stroud, Houston is 9-3 straight up in 12 games in H-Town. It's a virtual pick'em, Lacey. Who gets it done on Sunday?
Again, I know it's back-to-back road games, but I like Buffalo here. I think the more complete team. I still buy into Buffalo more than I buy into Houston. I still think Houston's a playoff contender, but I buy in slightly to Josh Allen a little bit more than C.J. Stroud because of the experience. The fact that they're, Diggs and Allen going up against each other, that's another reason, each want to show out. And again, I just like what Buffalo has this year. I know they didn't show it against Baltimore, but I still think if Trevor Lawrence could throw for 2 touchdowns last week and push Houston to the limit, they've been very helter-skelter this year. I think Buffalo does get it done. And again, another game, 47.5. I think we sail through the total.
If the Texans do close as the favorite, they have not been good this year. 4 games so far this season, all 4 as the favorite. One of 2 teams, along with the Dolphins, that has failed to cover a number so far this year, 0-3-1 against the spread. This is a basic pick'em at this moment. Let's go to Chicago. The Bears play host to the Carolina Panthers. Chicago, Joe, laying more than a field goal. With all the ties between these 2 clubs, the trade 2 years ago as Carolina moved up to number 1, got that deal from Chicago. They draft Bryce Young. Of course, because of that, the Bears had the number 1 overall pick this past season. They draft Caleb Williams. It's not going to be Bryce Young versus Caleb Williams. It's Andy Dalton back against his former team in Chicago against Caleb Williams. Chicago, 2-2 this year. Both wins at home, both times at home, booked as the favorite. Both times covering the number. 3.5-point spread, Joe, in favor of the Bears. Total 41.5. What do you like on Sunday at Soldier Field?
I like the dog. Again, I'm not buying into the Bears' big picture, Ben. I know that we talked about it. Good performance against L.A. The numbers suggested that, the Bears were the right side in regards to that. But I like the underdog. I'm going to take a shot with Carolina here. Close my eyes and get it done.
Carolina has been the underdog in all 20 games, now 21 since the start of last year. 5-14-2 against the spread. This year, 1-3 ATS with the only cover outright victory in week number 3. More from the Sunday slate. We continue the preview next.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
Delirious with joy.
1955, the Brooklyn Dodgers win their first World Series.
Elston Howard sends a grounder to Pee Wee Reese. And these Dodgers at last are world champions.
The 2-0 victory in Game 7 against the arch-rival New York Yankees sent Brooklyn into hysteria as Dem Bums had lost the previous 7 World Series. For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
Researchers at the University of Waterloo have created a new smart fabric when made into clothing can convert body heat and solar energy into electricity. Super durable with self-powered embedded sensors that monitor air temperature, automatically keeping you warm. Even wilder, monitors your vital signs, including respiration and body temperature. It even detects hazardous pathogens in the air you breathe. There's just one thing you probably don't want to do wearing your electrically charged pants. Shower in them! Follow me at G Capalbo on X and stay tuned to the Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Carver and Lisi.
Oh, Connie, you want to talk about a Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Fernando Valenzuela. You want to talk about a perfect situation to just cement the legacy. And I know he's there already, first 50-50 guy. They will put him into the Hall of Fame while he's active.
It's Carver and Lisi with Mike Carver and Joe Lisi. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. On the SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge
anywhere. Even while the wife's talking to you.
If you got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Every game for week number 5 of the 2024 NFL Sunday slate, live right here on Football Full Circle. You want to know how disastrous the season has been for the Dolphins? Look at the numbers for week number 5 up in Foxborough. The Patriots are a home favorite. They're laying 1.5. It's minus 116 on the money line. The Dolphins are the dog in New England. 36.5 is the total. Joe, what do we got? Talk to me. Can your Dolphins get it done this week up in New England?
I don't know about the side. I'm not betting the side. I can tell you this. Okay. I am going to bet the total. I'm going to close my eyes and get this total into the 40s. Because if you're telling me that you're Mike McDaniel and you have Tyreek Hill and all these playmakers that are now frustrated because you have basically a high school quarterback back there, you have to dial up something. If Malik Willis could throw a touchdown pass in the NFL with Matt LaFleur, dialing it up, and we've seen these coaches with backup quarterbacks progress. If you're the kid, boy wonder, you got to do something. So, look, 100%. They haven't scored a touchdown since Tua got hurt. They haven't scored a touchdown in basically, 10 quarters? That's pathetic. Right. That really is. So, reluctantly, I say this is a bounce back for Miami. I don't like the side, but the 36.5, Ben, come on. What are we doing here?
Come on. Listen, we've got 2 of the 5 worst scoring offenses in the National Football League. This is not even lowest total of Sunday. But, Lacey guy, there's a term known as chutzpah, right? You got to have a little bit of that confidence, the bravado in your chest. And if you are Mike McDaniel, if you are the Wonder Kid, if you are Boy Wonder, then go figure it out. Snoop Huntley has been in your facility for 3 weeks. He has been your starter for a second consecutive game. He made it work in Baltimore, and your buddies have made it work with a lot less. Figure it out. Miami should win on the road on Sunday, and I do agree, Lacey guy. There has to be some points. Not that I think there is going to be, but if Mike McDaniel is worth his salt, make it work this week against the Patriots. The Jacksonville Jaguars, winless, 0-4, trying to figure things out this week, Lacey guy, at home in a divisional duel against Indianapolis. The odds makers expect this to be win number 1 for Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars this year. They're a 2.5-point home favorite. 46.5 is the total against Indy. Will Jacksonville win its first game of this 2024 season?
No, I don't. Look, that was it. That was their Super Bowl last week. That was the last team they beat in regards to the previous 8 games that they had. The 8-game losing streak was last week, was Houston. Colts are playing much more and have better talent and a coach that buys in. Yeah, that's it. There's no way I could buy into Trevor Lawrence. I know they're very good in Duval County. I get that. But that was over the past few years when they were peaking. They've absolutely burst that bubble, and they're going the other way. I can't buy into Jacksonville in any capacity.
Just the second home game in Duval County this year for the Jaguars, and they were a favorite in week number 2. Sloppy, rainy Sunday against the Browns. They looked dreadful offensively. They lost that game 18-13. Supposed to be some rain in the forecast this week in Jacksonville as well. Joe, I lean under in this game. 46.5 is the total. Here's why I lean under. Jacksonville has been putrid offensively, tied for the 3rd worst scoring offense in the NFL, under in 3 of 4 games, including that first home game of the season back in week number 2. And for Indianapolis, not even so much concern, Joe, if it's Joe Flacco getting the start because of the injury to Anthony Richardson. If you don't have Jonathan Taylor out there for either of the 2 QBs, I think it's going to be a struggle. JT listed as questionable, dealing with a high ankle sprain. Lacey guy, how quickly things can change even in the opening month. The Commanders enter week number 5 with a 3-1 record, best in the NFC East. They are a favorite for the second time this season, laying 3 at home against the Browns. A change in expectation. Do Jaden Daniels and the Commanders match the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is a team playing with house money. They have an identity. They have a quarterback that is now really coming into his own. And what is Cleveland? Cleveland should have absolutely smacked around the Raiders last week. And they couldn't even beat Gardner Minshew. They lose that game. No way. Another gutless team.
Yep. I mean, I completely agree with you, Joe. The Raiders gift wrapped them opportunity after opportunity in the fourth quarter, and they failed to take advantage. More around Sunday and Week 5 next.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. Baseball playoffs on Thursday. The Mets rallied to beat the Brewers 4-2 to advance to the National League Division Series. Pete Alonso ripped a homer in the ninth. It was a 3-run shot off closer Devin Williams to give New York the win. They move on to a best-of-5 division series starting Saturday in Philadelphia against the NL East champion Phillies. The NL Central champion Brewers, who made their 6th playoff appearance in 7 years, still haven't won a playoff series since reaching Game 7 of the 2018 NLCS. Zach Wheeler starts for the Phillies tomorrow. The Mets haven't announced a starter. Other games, the Tigers visit the Guardians. Detroit hasn't announced a starter. Cleveland will go with Tanner Bibby. Garrett Cole starts for the Yankees at home against the Royals and Michael Wacha, while the Padres send Dylan Cease to the mound against Yoshi Yamamoto and the Dodgers. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. That's why our Lowe's Red Vest associates can help with game time decisions. Plus, use in-store mode on the Lowe's app to find what you need. Under pressure at home and want it soon? Order online by 2 p.m. to get it same day. Same day valid on eligible in-stock items and select zip codes only, subject to driver availability. Fees vary based on purchase, exclusions, and more terms apply. See Lowe's.com/same-day delivery for details.
Progressive presents good news, bad news, dumb news, then great news. Good news. While leaning over the fence, your neighbor said you could save money bundling home and auto insurance with Progressive. Bad news. Your neighbor leaned over a little too much and broke your fence. Dumb news. Somehow fence wood is more expensive than wood. Great news. You decide to see if you could save money bundling at Progressive.com and to plant really tall shrubs. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Days are getting cooler.
The shadows are getting longer. You know what that means.
It's football weather. So bundle up and keep it here for all the latest strategies and gridiron information.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
It does need to be shared that as the Commanders get ready to be a field goal favorite at home against Cleveland, how prolific Jaden Daniels has been. He leads the NFL in quarterback rush touchdowns. He has 4. He leads the NFL in pass completion percentage at 82.1%. Not just this year's NFL or last year's or the year before that. The history of the National Football League. The best completion percentage through the opening 4 weeks of any single NFL season in league history. But a big game on Sunday. Joe, this is one of those games, I will just say, right, where you look at everything this year, everything, and you think to yourselves, ooh, it's not just a story the Commanders are the favorites. It's a story they should be a touchdown favorite, not just laying a field goal against this trash Browns team. I think it's murky, though, on Sunday.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you still got to remember it's a rookie, basically, team. Dan Quinn,
right.
New first-year head coach, rookie quarterback, and you know, Deshaun Watson and that team are the veterans, right? You got to believe that the defense bounces back in somewhat of a capacity. I can't, you know, the biggest thing is if the quarterback play was up to par on Cleveland, you would say, okay, they have a legitimate shot. But again, the quarterback play is down. It's almost like having a backup. It's almost like what we see in Tyler Huntley in the Miami situation, and this guy's getting paid $281 million. I can't figure it. There's no offensive identity. They used to make their weight running the football, working off of play action. They have multiple weapons, Cooper, Judy. They can't get the football to them, and I'm not going against the recipe. Again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'll go with the more consistent team right here. And I'll just throw one more thing. You know, maybe I put Jaden Daniels on the map, and you know how I love him, right? But if he wins this game, does he get mentioned? And I know it's a crazy situation. The MVP candidate, are we starting to throw that around? Should this team be a 10 or 11 win football team?
We did with C.J. Stroud when he was performing the way he did last year and ran away with Offensive Rookie of the Year. If Jaden Daniels continues on this pace, I think that hardware is his and not Caleb Williams or Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr., but I think he would factor into the MVP conversation. The realistic opportunity of winning it is a different story when the year is through, but at least through the opening month or two, certainly could be a part of the conversation. The Cleveland Browns have allowed Deshaun Watson to be sacked 19 times through 4 games this season, by far the most in the NFL. Jedrick Willis back at practice this week for the Cleveland Browns. Maybe that's a better sign. Again, it doesn't look good for Cleveland under in 3 straight games. The 49ers and the Cardinals, as now we get to the afternoon window, 4 p.m. Eastern time or later on Sunday. San Francisco, Joe, once again, greater than a touchdown favorite. They laid 10.5 last week against the Pats, won that game comfortably, even covering. Now laying more than a touchdown against the Cardinals team that looked great in the opening 2 weeks and has left a little bit to be desired the last 2. Total 49.5. What do you like in Santa Clara on Sunday?
I like the 49ers. Again, and I know Arizona, started hot. They challenged Buffalo. They get the win. They play Detroit very close. And, I think we're going to start to migrate back to the median here. I think they're going to regress. Even though they beat the Rams, they got beat up by Washington. They gave up 40-plus points. And we saw the 49ers sort of bounce back into form. This is another opportunity to play bully ball against a front seven that I don't think could shut down the rushing attack. So give me 49ers. I think they cover the number easy. I lean to the under because I think the 49ers are going to run the football just to sustain drives and just keep Kyler on the sidelines. They win it convincingly, but I trend to the under here.
Lisi, I don't think it's a bad look. Arizona has played in the game that has featured the highest total of a Sunday slate. Now 3 weeks in a row, and they have been under in all 3. Against the Lions, or this will be the 3rd, against the Lions, and last week they actually went over against the Commanders, but they only scored 14 points. Arizona's offense has not been there necessarily, despite going over in 3 of 4 games, especially the last 2 weeks. I will say this, the Cardinals have been a favorite in 2 of their 4 games this year, but an underdog 19 times since the start of last season, 10-9 against the spread as a dog. I think this game is a little bit more competitive than maybe we anticipate. The Broncos and the Raiders, speaking about being an underdog, Denver has won outright each of the past 2 weeks as a road dog of 5.5 points or greater. Now they're back home in Mile High, laying 2.5 against the Las Vegas Raiders. This, the lowest total of Sunday, 35.5. What gives in Denver?
Yeah, I like the Raiders. Upset, a mild upset. Again, back to 500. They get the victory. The Devontae Adams situation, put it aside. I still like Gardner going up against the rookie Bo Nix. And again, divisional opponent. This is an opportunity to get over the hump and really make a statement. And I still believe the Raiders are a playoff team. I'm sitting on a plus 320 ticket, Ben. You want to give me the 2.5 points? I actually like them on the money line.
The Raiders are still 9-2-1, or excuse me, 9-3-1 against the number with Antonio Pierce as their head coach, interim or permanent. Joe, for me, this is a statement mentality type of game for Las Vegas. The Broncos have not been a favorite yet this year. Last year, in the first year of Sean Payton at altitude, 3-5-1 against the spread. Denver's defense has been impressive. Heck, they won a game last week on the road where Bo Nix threw for 60 yards. It's a reason the total is the lowest of the entire Sunday slate. But I think Antonio Pierce, who has the ear of that locker room, it's why he's the permanent head coach now in Sin City, has said the guys that made business decisions, mainly Devontae Adams, who will not play in this game as he awaits his trade destination, they're not here. We're focused on what we're doing. I think the Raiders give the Broncos a good test. Green Bay and L.A. in SoFi on Sunday. The Packers a 3-point road favorite. Total 48.5. Joe, with Malik Willis this year, the Packers are 2-0. With Jordan Love starting under center, they're 0-2. Do they get win 1 with Jordan Love in L.A. on Sunday?
I'm conflicted here. This is the one game that because I'll tell you what, I like both teams big picture. I lean to Green Bay here, and you're right. They started slow, but, Jordan Love throws for 389 in the loss because, the quarterback to wide receiver relationship got a little bit, more in sync, right? And that's what you would expect. Does it carry over now? So I lean to the Packers here. Don't love it, Ben, but I like the over. I don't see any way this game trends under the 48.5 with both of those quarterbacks.
Listen, the Rams are the second worst scoring defense, the second worst total defense. They are the worst rushing defense in the NFL. I like Josh Jacobs over his rushing yards prop of 62.5. Last week, they got a little helter-skelter, right? Jordan Love threw 4 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions. Josh Jacobs over 62.5 with at least 84 in the first 2 weeks of the year for Green Bay. He's cooled down a little bit. I think they get back to the run to help Jordan Love acclimate, but I think the Packers name their number on Sunday. We go to Seattle quickly. Seahawks, 6.5-point favorite against the New York Giants. 42.5 is the total. Seattle was unbeaten, and they got hammered in Detroit. They are 1-2-1 against the spread this year, but now laying a touchdown, Joe, against the Giants with the uncertainty around the status of Malik Neighbors. What do you like in this matchup in the Northwest?
Upset. I like the Giants. Now, they have struggled on the West Coast, especially in Seattle. They went there a couple of years ago, catching 3. They got smacked around. I think they step up. I'm not sold on Seattle big picture. I don't think they're a very good football team. I don't think they're elite. Let me just change that. I think they're a middle-of-the-road team. I'm not sold in Geno being this, all-world quarterback. So I'll take the 6.5 points. I don't care that Neighbors is not there. Wan'Dale Robinson is, and those playmakers, Slayton, I like the Giants outright.
That could be a big day, Joe, for Wan'Dale Robinson. Props not out for the G-Men just yet because of the injury report needing to be confirmed. Don't mind the look, though. The Giants, an underdog for what will be the 20th consecutive time on Sunday, 10-8-1 against the number in the previous 19. Sunday Night Football, college football, next.
Yeah, it's getting cooler.
Football weather is here.
Stay tuned for all the latest odds, strategies, and info. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The number of Americans applying for unemployment benefits rose modestly last week, but remains at healthy levels. With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. The Labor Department reported Thursday that applications for jobless claims rose by 6,000 to 225,000 for the week of September 28th. It was slightly more than the 221,000 analysts were expecting. The 4-week average of claims, which evens out some of weekly volatility, fell by 750 to 224,250. Retailers are ramping up hiring for the holiday season, but fewer seasonal employees are expected to be taken on this year to help customers in stores and assemble online orders in warehouses. Amazon announced Thursday it will hire 250,000 full, part-time, and seasonal workers for the crucial shopping period, rounding out a series of announcements made in recent weeks by the country's top retailers. Target said last month it planned to bring in roughly 100,000 seasonal employees. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Every business faces challenges, but complicated, expensive, and uncertain shipping shouldn't be one of them. With USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service, you can avoid all the noise. No more unexpected surcharges, hidden fees, or complex rate structures. It's just easy, cost-effective, and dependable shipping. Tune your business's frequency to success and turn shipping to your advantage. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable.
Total Wireless is made to totally keep up with you. We now have unlimited data that never slows you down, covered by the Verizon 5G network, and all for less than $30 a month when you get 4 lines. And the best part, we give you a free Samsung Galaxy A54 5G when you switch to the Total 5G Plus Unlimited plan. Visit your local Total Wireless store today. Total Wireless, we're totally with you. Actual speeds may vary by location. For data management practices, see TotalWireless.com.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
One more game from the Sunday slate in week number 5 to preview for you. It's the final one of Sunday. It's Sunday night in the Steel City. Two iconic brands in the National Football League facing off in Pittsburgh. It's the Steelers hosting the Cowboys. Pittsburgh, a 2.5-point home favorite. 43.5 is the total. The Cowboys victorious the last time we saw them a Thursday night ago in MetLife against the Giants. So a mini bye for the boys to figure things out. They are 2-2, but not truly all that impressive through the opening month. The Steelers handed their first loss of the season last Sunday in Indy. Joe, does Pittsburgh bounce back? Does Dallas improve with a winning record? What do you like on Sunday night?
I like Justin Fields, and I like Pittsburgh to grind it out. They might win this game anywhere from 4 to 7 points, but I love the over. I really believe what we saw last week, even though it was in a come-from-behind type of deficit and situation, is more what Justin Fields can do. I think we can move more to that type of balance with the Pittsburgh Steelers, which would take the pressure off the offensive line and open up the rushing attack for them. So I'm just not sold on Dallas, man. And it's not even the Dallas offense. It's this Dallas defense. Micah's banged up, DeMarcus Lawrence. We saw Trayvon Diggs. Have they looked good to you? They have not looked like good. And they they win that game, and Daniel Jones throws for 281. So, I mean, it's not like they shut down a high-powered attack. He sliced and diced them last week.
I completely agree, Joe. He has not. That Dallas defense under Mike Zimmer has not looked great. They were better defending the run because they came into the start of week 4 as the worst rushing defense in the National Football League. Devin Singletary just 14 carries for 24 yards before he was banged up against the Cowboys. But Dallas has also looked really bad offensively running the football, and they play the Steelers, who is the best rushing or one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL and the best scoring defense still in the National Football League. Not a great recipe for the Cowboys, I would think, to take advantage of. Pittsburgh as a favorite. They were favored last week in Indy. 10-6 against the spread since the start of 2022. That was post-Roethlisberger era. We'll see if they can cover again at home on Sunday night. You ready? A little college football talk here on Football Friday on FFC. Joe, we hit a couple of the games that will be a part of the card tonight, but just a reminder, 6th-ranked Oregon in Eugene, 23.5-point favorite against Michigan State. Jonathan Smith against his former rival, former quarterback and head coach of Oregon State. UNLV, a perfect 4-0 mark for the first time since 1978 against my Syracuse Orange. 6.5-point spread, Joe, in favor of the Red Rebs in Sin City tonight. Total in the game, 55 and a hook. What do you like in the two marquee matchups on Friday night?
I like Oregon laying the 23.5, and I like Syracuse to strike the potential upset over UNLV. And we'll start with Oregon. I just don't know if Michigan State, they're completely one-dimensional. I know Jonathan Smith as a dog typically has his teams prepared. But again, you watch that game for Oregon, the way they dominated UCLA, and what I believe was a much better passing attack. Not running attack, but passing attack, and they shut them down, got quarterback pressures. I think they're going to stack the box. And again, if Michigan State can't run, then it falls on the quarterback play, and that's the problem. Now, their star wide receivers coming back for this matchup. Maybe that adds a little bit of juice. He was, cleared to play. I get that. But I still believe we saw Dylan Gabriel in that offense evolve. The defense now is starting to come around, and I think they're peaking at just the right time. When you have a trigger man in Gabriel completing 81% of his passes, I'll take that any day of the week. And the only thing I'll say about UNLV is we had the overreaction with Sluka in that situation last week. We saw the line movement. Malik Williams dominates. They beat a very good above average Fresno State team. And now we're coming back. We have a very good quarterback and very good passing attack in Syracuse. I like Cuse and I like the over.
Syracuse, third best passing offense in all of college football, more than 372 yards per game. Kyle McCord has thrown for at least 339 yards in all 4 games for SU this year. Multiple touchdowns in all 4. 4 TDs at bare minimum in all 3 wins for the Orange this year. They are 3-1. 2 interceptions, though, Joe, in the last 2. And the Rebels' defense has been opportunistic. Got to play clean football tonight. I think it will be difficult for the Orange to slow down UNLV's rushing attack. It's the go-go offense out in Las Vegas. 283 yards per game for UNLV on the ground. That's 6th best in college football. Living up to the running Rebs. Nomer. Because of that, I think both offenses can exploit what the other defense doesn't defend very well. We get some points tonight out in Las Vegas. But in Autzen Stadium, sir, game staying within 3 touchdowns. Michigan State covers tonight. That is my thought on the Friday night slate. Joe, a couple of really good games on Saturday. We don't have the plethora of ranked versus ranked matchups we did last Saturday to end September, or with how beautiful the slate looks this upcoming Saturday. But for this Saturday, Joe, there was one ranked versus ranked game, kinda. We've got 9th-ranked Missouri against the co-25th team in the AP poll alongside UNLV. It is Texas A&M. The Aggies, a slight home favorite, laying 2.5 in College Station at Kyle Field. Will A&M win, improve to 5-1, or might we see a small upset courtesy of Missouri?
I like A&M here. Now, there's an extra week of prep for Missouri in regards to this matchup, so, that should benefit them in terms of prep for this game. But again, Marcel Reed in that offense, that was a very impressive win, falling behind on a neutral field to Taylon Green, Jaquindon Jackson in that offense. They shut them down completely in the second half and pull away 21-17 to get the window cover. I like Brady Cook. He definitely has the edge over Reed. But this team is helter-skelter. I don't think the defense is as good as they were last year with Barry Odom and Blake Baker. And that defense, I think they're a different type of defense in regards to that. And I think they can be exposed. So give me more Reed. The fact that they're playing at home, Ben, if Missouri was in Columbia, I would say Missouri, but I like A&M to cover this line.
More FFC next.
The boys of summer become the champions of fall.
The World Series is on its way.
And SportsGrid brings you every angle. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
Get the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
So again, we only have one true ranked versus ranked matchup on Saturday, and it's not even all that true. It's 9th-ranked Missouri against number 25, Texas A&M. But that does not mean the slate is bad. Lisi, we've got an interesting slate, a slate that could be prone to a couple of upsets. We've got 8 ranked teams on the road against an unranked foe. 7 of the 8 laying at least 8.5 points away from home. Only one of those 8 ranked teams against the unranked opponent is an underdog, and that's Michigan in the national championship game rematch. We hit that game yesterday. Let's get to a few others. Lisi guy, Tennessee and Arkansas. We got a good matchup in Fayetteville. The Vols, 13.5-point favorite on the road under the lights in this matchup against the Hogs. 57.5 is the total. How do you see it?
I actually like Arkansas with the points. Now, they have won 3 straight in the series. Last time they played was back in 2020, but I really like the rushing attack of Taylor Green and Jackson. They're averaging 240 on the ground. And Arkansas very good in run support. That's the strength right now of Tennessee, holding opposing offenses to less than 100 yards per game. I think they're going to be in it, Ben. And, crazy things happen in Fayetteville. I know it's under the lights. Give me the points in primetime.
2020, Joe, that was the year Sam Pittman took over in Fayetteville. Arkansas is 20-9 against the spread as a dog in that span. 4th best in the country. Best cover percentage of any team booked as a dog at least 20 times. Tennessee has been favored in all 4 games this year. They are 4-0 against the spread, covering by 21.5 points per game. But in terms of the matchup, Joe, Arkansas has been really good up front with that physicality. They are one of 24 teams allowing less than 100 yards per game on the ground this year. I like that look. How about the new number 1 team in the country? Alabama heads to Vanderbilt. Now, it's a lofty spread, as you would expect in Nashville. 22.5 points in favor of the Tide. But, Lisi, is there any letdown after the dramatic game of the year against Georgia a week ago?
No, they've won I think 12 straight against Vanderbilt. They've pounded them. They have. The last time they played in Nashville, it was 55-3. Yeah. I am not getting in front of that train with Jalen Milroe. Again, there might be a letdown, and maybe there's somehow, some way, Pavia and in that offense, keep it close. I'm not betting that, especially now after that performance where he's the front runner for the Heisman. I'm not getting in front of that train.
Alabama has been 3-1 against the spread this year, booked as a favorite, of course, in most of those games, except for last week. 53.5 is the total in the 3 covers for the Tide as a favorite. They have gone over. If we think they come close to covering, maybe we see some points. Diego Pavia on the other side for the Commodores. Lisi, a couple of big games in ACC country, and that includes now Northern California. Miami, a double-digit favorite against the Berkeley Bears. 10.5-point spread in favor of the Canes as they visit Cal. It's where the second best Saturday pregame show is going to be. Of course, the best, the premier program, that's College Football Today with Lisi Guy, myself, and Kevin Walsh tomorrow. Miami laying 10.5 against Cal. What do you like?
I'll tell you this, it's a crazy trip for Miami, right? They spare their season with the Hail Mary call against Vatech. They get the win but no cover. They go out west. I mean, this is a Cal defense giving up 12.8 points per game. Very good in the back end, 182 passing yards per game, and more importantly, Ben, holding opposing quarterbacks to 51% completion percentage. Somehow, some way, I think they're going to be in the number, but I'll give you a better bet. I mean, I lean to the points. You know me, I'm an underdog guy. I think the unders are no doubt play for this game. Love the under. I like
that look. Come on now. The Bears, Lisi Guy, one of 7 FBS teams that enters week 6 under in all games this year and under by more than 2 touchdowns per game. Quickly here, let's go to Clemson and Florida State. It's been a disastrous season for FSU. We do not believe DJ Uiagalelei is going to play in this game for the Noles. They're catching 14.5 at home in Doak Campbell against Clemson. Is it even enough?
No, well, I mean, Clemson's won 3 straight by 32 points per game. The last time Florida State won in Tallahassee, 2014. I can only look Clemson, but I'm not betting it.
Yeah, listen, I think we're going to see some offense out of the Tigers. What do we get out of Florida State? Keep an eye on the ground game because Florida State's been terrible offensively. He is Joe Lisi. I'm Ben Stevens. That does it for a Football Friday on FFC. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you Monday.
Now you've done it. You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.